There is so much out there in India that we just don't know about. And a lot of these vendors have been practicing this craft and art for several decades. What these guys are doing is not just serving street food. What they're doing is practicing art. It's not really about the money for these people. They just got this joy from serving food to anybody who came to their store.
We have quoted one line from Anthony Bourdain. It says, street food, I believe, is the salvation of the masses. Everywhere there were heartwarming, inspiring stories, hearing the stories and how much this vendor actually invests and cherishes and treasures the respect for the artisanship, the craftsmanship. To be there and to know how much of effort and passion goes into it, I found a new respect and a new admiration for all the people who do street food. And I want to make a point here that street food vendors are not illegal encroachers. A large percentage of them are licensed.
I think people who are now eating at home, ordering through Swiggy, Zomato, they're all going to start looking for it.
This is a very essential part of our urban landscape and the local economy. You need multiple small businesses to flourish, to have an economic and a culinary system that is fair and socially just as well.
So hi, in today's podcast we have with us Priya Bala and Jayanth Narayanan. Priya Bala is a writer specializing in food. She's a restaurant critic of repute and the author of Footprints, A Trail of Meals and Memories. She has forayed into cooking in professional settings and runs Yo Colombo, a Sri Lankan food brand based on the principles of sustainability. We'll know more from her. As a chef and writer, she's uniquely placed to understand the food industry. And now we're going to talk to Jayanth Narayanan. He began his career in the corporate world and was later drawn to the restaurant industry with all its challenges and thrills. Enterprising restaurateur, Jayanth runs Mani's Dum Biryani, the popular quick service restaurant brand, and I have ordered many times from Mani's Dum Biryani. Jayanth is an alumnus of BITS Pilani and holds an MBA from XLRI Jamshedpur. I really need to know how his parents feel about this. Now, together, Priya and Jayanth have co-authored Start Up Your Restaurant and Secret Sauce, Inspiring Stories of Great Indian Restaurants. Welcome to today's episode. So the first question that goes to Priya, you've written extensively about food. What made you decide to focus specifically on street food for Bazaar Bites, which is your latest book? What's the appeal for you about street food?
Yes, Mohua. So this kind of happened when we were researching our previous books. So Secret Sauce actually happened when we traveled and we spoke to restaurateurs for Start Up Your Restaurant, for insights on, what were the success mantras. And then we spoke to all these restaurateurs. They were just for sound bites and little lessons from restaurateuring. And then we realized that they had so many wonderful stories to tell. So we actually went and met them. So we traveled. We went to Lucknow to meet the Tunde Kebab owners and to Amritsar to meet the Kesar Dhaba. And when we went to these cities, which we haven't explored in that manner, then we found and we're both kind of fond of casual eating more than formal dining, I think. I've, of course, done it. And it's like at the end of the trajectory, really jaded palate. So when we hit the streets and we saw so much wonderful food all over the country, and that was really said, like, why don't we talk about this? And it was just began. I kind of it evolved and assumed a life of its own. We just began by wanting to talk about the street food out there. And then when we actually went and met them, there were so amazing stories emerging from each of these vendors, And then we started it became a food and talking about the vendors. So that's how it happened. It kind of was meant to be.
Wonderful. I love street food. We grew up on that. I'm from Delhi and I used to eat in Prince Chaat House, which is in GK. And I still go there. Even if I've got like one flight out, I will make it a point to go there and eat the golgappe and the aloo chaat that they make. Now, my question with Jayanth, now with 40 cities in the book, how did you go about choosing these cities, for your food exploration? And how much of research went into writing this book? Did you go out there and eat in every restaurant in every city? Or what was this whole process? It sounds extremely interesting. Tell our listeners, Jayanth, about this.
So I think we picked the usual suspects at the beginning, which is the Amritsar, the Varanasi, the Calcutta, etc. And then through our secondary research, we identified several more cities. And then we started traveling to some of them, and some of them surprised us, like Orissa really surprised us, Bhubaneswar and Cuttack. Allahabad really surprised us. And then we just went about saying that there is so much to do out there. We should probably explore more and more cities. And then that's kind of how it emerged. I think we probably have covered, we've left out a lot of cities. I know that readers are going to be upset with some of the cities we have left out. So hopefully we'll cover that in the next edition of the book.
Oh, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Priya, you traveled to Madurai, which is your hometown. And how did it feel to write about the food that you grew up in? Did you find the same street vendors, or was there, new guys who came in with the change, in the recipes, or accommodating a whole lot of other people, and that nuance of that stays back in your mouth, Did you figure all of that? Was it same, or has it changed?
Yes, so Madurai was very special because it's where we actually began. It was the first place we went, Jayanth. And it was, I mean, I went to all the places that I knew, like, the Ban Parotta is very famous. We went to the halwa shops. For me, the revelation was talking about, hearing the stories and hearing like how the Ban Parotta came to be and how much this vendor actually invests and cherishes and treasures his parota masters. So the respect for the artisanship, the craftsmanship, and some of it was revelatory for me. The puttu shop, for instance. So in Madurai, and so Madurai is the site of 64 sacred games which Shiva is supposed to have enacted there, and the puttu features very prominently in one of them. And it was wonderful, to go to the puttu vendor who's out there at 5 a.m., I think, in the morning, and there's a queue of people waiting, and people who's arriving from out of town tell him that we are coming, keep this puttu ready for me. It's just puttu with sugar and jaggery, 2 or 3 variants, but excellent. So yeah, it was. I learned a few things, and I was also able to reconnect with some of these things. And I think all of them went like, to me earlier. The parota was just something you ate when you had needed like a really huge carb kick, But to be there and to know how much of effort and passion goes into it, I think I found a new respect and a new admiration for all the people who do street food. We did find some new vendors. I mean, around the tank, there's a thing called the Teppakolam, in the center of which is a Shakti temple called the Mariamman temple. And around that, there are some really wonderful sellers doing things like savory and sweet. Very unassuming, for 5 rupees, 10 rupees, very good quality. I've taken some gourmets and connoisseurs there, and they have approved it. So I know it's just not my fondness for Madurai. It's really great food. Yeah. So, yes, that was wonderful.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely sure. Yes. So, Jayant, Puri, Bhubaneswar, and Cuttack, they're not directly associated really with street food, right? But you have the best shingara there, the dahi bora, and, aloo dum, um, the chena sweets. And of course, I'm a Bengali myself, and there's a huge debate between who really discovered the Rasgulla. I am very sure it's Bengal. So, what was your experience discovering the street food culture in the eastern part of India? And what makes these dishes very, very special for them?
I think Orissa was an eye opener for us in the sense that that is kind of the first place where we felt that there is so much out there in India that we just don't know about. And a lot of these vendors have been practicing this craft and art for several decades. So some of them have been around for 50 years. Some of their families have been doing this for about 100 years. And then we realized that what these guys are doing is not just serving street food. What they're doing is practicing art. So unfortunately, we do not value street food as art. So we really felt that we owe it to these vendors to kind of bring them into the spotlight. The other thing we noticed very clearly, especially in Orissa, was singaras were available for 3 rupees in today's times. So we realized that it's not really about the money for these people. They just got this joy from serving food to anybody who came to their store. And this affordability, I think, makes it, we talk about corporate social responsibility, etc. But I think these people, their entire life was about serving others. So I think that really humbled us quite a bit. And we just couldn't believe that these people are able to survive and live a lifestyle of the meager earnings they make and still produce food that is absolutely amazing.
Yes, I agree with you because I went into Kolkata and there are many, many stalls there. These little shops, especially in North Kolkata, where you find these amazing ghugni and the luchi, and they'll give you their cup of tea, and all just in like maybe 1 rupee 50 or 2 rupees. I mean, that's what about 5 years back also, and it was shocking, And I wanted to give him more, but obviously I didn't want to insult him by giving him more. I paid exactly what he asked for. So yes, it is fascinating, and it's amazing that you both have put this together. So, Priya and Jayanth, for both of you, this question, maybe you can take time in answering this, each one of you. When you traveled across these cities, did you ever come across any food stories that were really inspiring and heartwarming to you guys personally? And which of these lesser known, food spots in India really stuck with you? Which part? Priya, you spoke about Madurai, you spoke about Jayanth, you spoke about Cuttack, Bhubaneswar. Apart from that, is there any place that you'd like to share with our listeners that maybe if they are on a food trail, where is it that they should go?
So, yes, everywhere there were heartwarming, inspiring stories. So some would actually like bring a lump to your throat. Like I remember the Litti Chokha wala in Patna, for instance, Purani Litti Chokha wala. His shop is really bare minimum. It's on a chat. So he's got the littis cooking over coal, all very traditional. The ghee is there and the choka is a thing. And he was lying in his little charpoy cot inside, came out to speak to us. So welcoming. And then he was telling us about how I think it's 40 rupees for a plate of littis, and it's a full meal, right? And it's fairly nutritious because of the sattu and everything. And he was telling us about how he changes the spice mix, spice combination for the sattu filling according to the season. Like in the rainy season, it's things that will fight off cold and cough, warming spices in winter, in summer, tand ke liye, that kind of thing. And he says, these are not just my customers. Because they come to me 4 or 5 times in a week to eat their one fulfilling meal. I'm also
We've lost.
have to be respect, like look after their health. उनका सेहत के लिए मैं ख्याल रखता हूँ, like kind of thing. So it was amazing. And I keep saying that you don't hear like big corporates or big restaurants having any concern for their customers' health at all. Because I know the restaurant industry for a very long time, so I don't see that. And the hospitality, when we went to Hyderabad, and there's this matwale lassi and doodh wala, and really, and what do they make, 50, 60 rupees for, and they have their own cows, and there's so much effort that goes into it, and absolutely refuse. And this we noticed in many other places, people would absolutely refuse to because when we were speaking to them and saying that we were writing a book, absolutely not take that 50 rupees or 40 rupees from us. And I remember this Hyderabad matwale who was named after a dargah, and he said, "Nahi, aap hamara mehman hai." So that kind of, it was really the people were really amazing everywhere we went. In Varanasi, I think it was the son of the Chachi ka dukan, and it is to me like a moment out of a movie. He was sitting in this old haveli with his buddies having adda, right? And little nostalgia, a little bit of pain that it's not possible to keep this business going for too long. Next generations, they're on the street. They of course now have what they call a karkhana, small store, like where workshop where they make the food, and was giving us tea and exchange. They're sharing their lives, and the story is all very beautiful. And I have a lot of attachment to all these people now in my mind. I want to definitely go back and see them. The old snacks wala in Lokmat in Allahabad. Allahabad was another city that completely surprised us. So yes, it was the people and their stories and their generosity. Really, to us, of course, and also to all their customers. So yeah, that was very good. And I'm very inspired and very humbled that we had the opportunity to meet these people and hope this book in a small way, like celebrates them and gives them their due, not in any way that is commensurate with the immense service they perform in feeding the masses. But yeah, just in a small way. Yeah.
What about you, Jayanth?
So, like Priya said, I think almost all the stories were really heartwarming. I'll probably share one or two which really resonated with me. One is this place called Ramaseri Idli in Palakkad. So, this place is in a small village. It's operated out of a house. There are two shops now. And this place has been around for about 100 years plus. And they make an idli in a slightly different style. So, they have like a earthen pan in which they steam water. And then the idli is cooked in wooden kind of weave baskets. So it's a really nice, fluffy, fresh idli. And the good thing is people from Palakkad, it's about 20 kilometers from the city. And people order it for weddings, they order it for functions. So it's really good to see that people really take a liking to places which really do authentic and unique stuff. The other thing which I really liked was Bahadura Laddu in Gwalior. So this is a guy who supplies motichur laddu to the governments, to big businessmen's weddings, etc. And when we asked him what makes his laddu very special, he says that we start in the morning, we just use good ingredients and hawa pani ka kamal hai, that's it. There's no other secret behind our motichur laddu. So,
Amazing, amazing. So I
yeah.
have to add this, I mean, I'm so moved talking to the two of you because I'm myself, being from the home that we come from, aspirational middle class people, we have food as our means of entertainment. So obviously food has played a pivotal part in my growing up. And I was in Ladakh, traveling with my son, and we were going through Khardungla Pass, and we were hungry, and we stopped at this dhaba where the army people used to come and eat. And this lady and her daughter was running this restaurant in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Okay. And she made this amazing dal chawal and some achar and some aloo. And she made us sit down, and we paid some 10 rupees, I think, for my son and me to eat. And she was so thrilled to see us enjoy it that she kept serving us more and more. And she was just so happy that we were enjoying her food. So I completely relate to what Priya and Jen, both of you are talking about, that the generosity and wo jo, to look after, a guest, that is
Guest,
present in India. It is so part of the culture. So, moving on to the other part of the book, Jayanth, which are the lesser known food spots that has really stuck with you?
So one is this place called Attar Samosa in Pune. This is a small place which serves keema samosas. I'm a vegetarian, but I mean, talking to customers there and seeing others enjoy the food and the loyalty that they have, I think that really was a place which I had not even heard about. And it's a really small, nondescript kind of a place. The number of Shin Kachori places in Varanasi, you walk from your hotel towards the temple, you probably will find, there used to be something called a Kachori Gully earlier. Now it's not there, but you'll still find a lot of these vendors who come only in the morning and serve two hing kachoris for about 10 rupees. So really fresh, really nice. The other story which really stuck to me was the Davangere Bende Dosa. This was actually started by a lady in the early 1900s to serve dosa to people coming out of a night show movie. So, and then that has really taken on its own shape over the last several years. So again, we could keep talking about multiple of these stories, but these are probably three that are top of the mind.
So amazing. I'm so enjoying this podcast. Oh my God, Priya, because it's so close to my heart. And I love these stories because, there is such a growing trend about healthier food alternatives that everybody's talking about today. So really, do you think that street food vendors will be able to adapt to this shift? Because, half the world that you meet nowadays, they want to eat vegan, they want to eat, organic, they're asking for, almond milk, and I assume that these must be very good for the health, but what happens to these vendors who are really it's their livelihood, it's the love with which they cook at home and they serve to the people there? Tell me a little about your opinion on this.
Yes. So the quinoa and the kale and the almond milk is actually an expression of privilege. Okay. And it belongs to and that desire and also the means to fulfill that desire belongs to a very, very small population. Consider the population of our country, right? We are 1.45 billion. So, and street food, we have quoted one line from Anthony Bourdain, whom we all adore, as the opening, one of the opening lines in the book, and it says, "Street food, I believe, is the salvation of the masses." So the masses who cannot even think of like dal chawal, forget quinoa salad with cranberries. So they have to be fed. I mean, I know there is a protein gap and all of that, and we have to address that. But that is I think the responsibility of the state and of policymakers, right, to see how we can fortify and provide that. Right now, we're talking about this. Some of these industries, these street food vendors, have grown over maybe a century, maybe more. A lot of them are 100 years plus old, 4, 5 generations. So, like the pav bhaji walas of Bombay, for instance, they came into being to feed poor mill workers, and it is if you stop thinking about like nutrients and like people are also dismissing that now, nutritionism as they call it, no, like what proteins are we eating, what carb, like it's a fairly fulfilling meal. You get fresh bread, it's buttered, you have a puree of vegetables which has potato, carrot, peas, whatever, tomatoes, onions. So it's a reasonably satisfying. It may have some nutrition deficiencies, but it still fulfills. So Puri Aloo Wala in Jodhpur, Udaipur, and the Litti Chokha Wala, that's a very healthy meal. The Bati Churma is in Rajasthan all over, the Kachori. So I'm not, see, for some people, it is also daily sustenance. There are, I think, salesmen and, Swiggy Zomato boys in Bombay, for instance, who have to eat a Bombay sandwich or a vada pav to satisfy their hunger. They cannot afford to eat more. That is the reality of our country and its economics, right? So I feel that street food vendors, I mean, you cannot expect them to do healthy samosa and air fried vada pav. I just think that's too much. So for that part of society, that segment who relies on this, I think they must have continued access to this. We should not do anything to disrupt this. And I want to make a point here that street food vendors are not illegal encroachers. A large percentage of them are licensed. Okay, they have the right to think. They don't have access to clean water, sewerage, cleaning facilities, the struggle. That's why hygiene hygiene scares are raised, etc. Having said that, if given a chance, given a food writer, somebody who's observing this scene for 25, 30 years, I would still go and eat a kachori in Jodhpur than eat in MNC QSR. Okay. Anthony Bourdain was asked this, what would you eat, like the business end of a warthog or a McNugget? He chose the former because he said, at least I know what's in it, you know. So, yes. And for us, city dwellers, I mean, middle class people, there's an occasional indulgence. Once, twice in a month, you go eat a samosa or a pani puri or a chaat or a chole, but it's not going to kill you and you'll keep the business alive. And I think this is part of our urban heritage. It belongs to our landscape. So I really don't think we should make any demands on them to make it healthy. If you want to eat air fried samosa, make it at home and eat it, right? And that's the privileged class always have access to that. Or you can say no to this. There are enough people who need this food and who the vendors are happy to serve. And also, they serve from their hearts. And they don't do anything. All the food is fresh. They don't use preservatives. In most places, they don't have a refrigerator. They make the chutney, the atta, the aloo at home, come and make it in front of your eyes. Oil is a little bit suspect sometimes, but we went everywhere, never felt sick once, not once. I ate
Have I
everywhere.
fallen sick with street food ever? And I
No.
really, really having my, pani puris.
Yeah.
Even in Bangalore, days when I'm depressed, I just go out there and I can see one guy standing there with this matka and the water. And they're so thrilled. Now they also have, their UPI to pay. And
Yeah.
that to me
Yes,
is also
exactly.
so fitting, And if you compliment with them about their food, they will give you an extra, which you will never ever
Yeah.
get in a restaurant, which is so
Yeah.
heartwarming.
Yeah.
What do you think is the future of street food in India, especially with the rise of online, food delivery platforms like Zomato and Swiggy, and everybody's like really sitting at home and they want to order in. Where do you think will these vendors also go over time?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are two things that may happen. One is the government and the corporations may come and say that street food is unhygienic, they're encroachers, so we'll get rid of them, and that will be a really sad state of affairs. I really hope that doesn't happen. Uh, on the other side, I think people who are now eating at home, ordering through Swiggy, Zomato, they're all going to start looking for experiences. Right now, when we talk about experience, we say go to a fine dine restaurant, etc. But in the future, I think people are going to these street food tours. People are going to really watch out for some of these because you're not going to get these in abundance. If you want to eat a hing kachori in Varanasi, somebody who's going there, they'll probably do that than eat breakfast in their five-star hotel. So I think more and more people are going to look at street food as experiences. And like Priya said, I think this is food for the masses. So they'll find a way to survive. So you won't get your workers if you can't feed them. So you won't have a Ola drivers if you can't feed them. And the only people who are feeding them today are the street food vendors. So that way I can see these guys just being very resilient and surviving despite any moves by the government or corporation to get rid of them.
Thank you so much. So, Priya, street food is an integral part of India's culinary culture, right? So, there has been a growing concern about adulteration. And of late, we've seen so many masala companies also that have had to shut shop because of the adulteration there. And they use a very harmful ingredients, and one can't deny that. So, during your travel, did you come across any, instances of adulteration in the street food scene? And how do you think it impacts customer trust? Because at the end of the day, there is a huge rise of cancer. People are, India is almost becoming like the diabetic and the cancer capital. Every home that you go into is like somebody's, relative or somebody or the other has got cancer. So obviously, adulteration is a problem. Uh, Tell me your opinion on this.
So, yeah, I'm sure it happens. It's happening. It's not like the big corporations are not doing it. And some of the ingredients that these street food vendors use come from the big corporations. They are not manufacturing dalda or anything. They are buying it from elsewhere. So I think if we need to have controls, we need to have it at that level. Did I see them actually adulterate at the street level? No. And also, I want to make this point here that, there are, I think it's a product of social media. You find these scare videos, right? People stamping on their atta, the dough with their feet, or deliberately spitting into it or something. I think these are just fake videos. We did not see one instance of that. As I said, I did not feel sick. You have to exercise caution. Of course, like maida kachori, you cannot eat for every day of your life. Some people do, they are used to it. Like in Madurai, there are people who go and eat a small dollop of halwa dripping with ghee and a little bit of a savory on the side every single day with the evening coffee. So I don't know, it's maybe constitution, it's maybe cultural, it works for some people. I think if we have to, because cost is a definite concern for street food vendors. They don't operate on large margins. So they will go and look for the cheapest product available. I think it's the responsibility of the FSSAI to see that these products don't float around in the market in the first place, And a lot of adulteration happens in seemingly very clean and sterile and packaged food industry. So we should also be cautious of that. These are really, I think the smallest and the most least powerful part of the system and a cog in the machine. So adulteration, yes, definitely. I'm very concerned about the spice powders adulteration that happened, and uh, steps need to be taken. But I don't think the starting point would be to look at what street food vendors are doing. I think system will have to fix it at a higher level, like the supply of these ingredients. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Absolutely, such a great point. It's about the supplier. I
Yeah.
agree with you. Jayanth, you mentioned in the preface that street food could be better than processed packaged food. So please, can you just explain that to us?
I think it's just the honesty with which these vendors make and serve the food. You can see everything in front of them, front of you when you're eating it. All the
True.
ingredients, and like Priya said, there is no refrigerator, there is nothing that they add.
Mhm.
Uh, Try doing that in a fine dine restaurant and tell them that you actually want to go inspect their store, you want to inspect or walk into a factory of a Britannia or some other brand and say that I want to see what goes into it. They're never going to allow that. So I think the honesty is just right there in front of you for you to see.
Wonderful. So, Priya, India has a huge culinary diversity. Still, there's a lack of awareness, about Indian delicacies. I mean, I don't know how many people on a Saturday night would want to go and have a Litti Chokha. I think I would. I would love to make that my Saturday night out food. So, what is your thought on this? How does one create this awareness about Indian delicacies? Because all of us are rushing to an olive. We want to go to I'm not taking names of restaurants, but that's where people want to fix their
Yeah.
meetings, right? You want to go to an olive, you want to go to a toast and tonic, you want to go to a and the food is good there. It's really, really tasty, but there are good food also. So what is your thought on this? It's a little bit of a tricky answer, but we'd really like to get into your
Yeah.
mind about this.
Yeah, I'm very happy to answer this, and I know what I'm going to say. So, yeah, we have huge diversity. It was like, if I thought I'm a food person and I have a sense of what's available in this country, it was eye opening, it was humbling, it was exhilarating to see all this food out there. Every state, the kachori varies. What they call the betmi puri changes from Varanasi to Agra to Allahabad. It was just so fascinating. Such diversity, so much skill, from everything to a pakoda to a bhajia, the jalebi, the jaleba. So people who've read the book, are like, oh my God, I did not know this even exists. Right? And it could be people who live in Bangalore don't know that what is girmit? I said, no, it's the bhelpuri of, when you give reference bhelpuri of North Karnataka. Oh, it's like that. But it's not very similar. I mean, it's not very dissimilar, but it is unique in its own way. So I think we don't have enough knowledge because we don't have, and also, the media and the show. I love some of the food shows. A lot of chefs are doing a great job, but we still playing with the known, comforting things, right? You talk like even the kulcha of Amritsar. I mean, if you've eaten it there, no five-star hotel could ever come close to it. It is just,
True.
and it's made on the street in that tandoor in the winter with that amount of, as the wheat of Punjab. It's the hand of that Sardar who's doing it, the mulika chutney, which is going with it. It is just, So I think we will only appreciate and celebrate this if we experience it. I mean, I know a small Bazaar Bites is a small effort in that direction to create this awareness, but we really have to celebrate. Like you look at other countries, like you go to, say, like the street food of Thailand, for instance, they managed to make a thing out of it. Like somtam. Everybody in India will know somtam. They will not know girbit or mirchi bhaji. Okay, or mulbagal dosa, or mailari dosa. Or what are the different dosas of Karnataka? Which I felt also found very. Mysore has a different dosa. It has a mailari dosa with thick, spongy, little light. And the way they play with the accompaniments. In one place it's potato, one place it's only sambar, one place sambar and chutney. So I think awareness and just experience it and also take pride in this. Like even Jayanth keeps bringing this thing up, right? Like we'll go out and our aspiration is at a certain class level is to go eat a burger on a Sunday. And you think like, oh, we had a treat. You're not going to go get a masala dosa. And if it's like masala dosa 70 rupees in a slightly better shop, it's like, oh, they're charging so much. What does it want dosa? The dosa takes a lot of skill. Actually makes a lot more skill than a burger or one of these chain pizzas to put together, which is basically an assembly job of frozen foods of unidentified, unrecognizable provenance. Don't know whether it's cheese or tomato or food-like substance, as Michael Pollan calls these things. Okay, so I think experiencing them and chefs, food writers. This is what I mean. Of course, some writers have to focus on the gourmet and the fine dining and all of that, and the pop-ups and the destination restaurant. But I think we should also talk about that and take pride in it. I think that is a little now it's changing because in Delhi, for instance, there are a lot of people doing nice street walks. Lots of cities have street food walks and outsiders. But I think we should. I know people are a little bit wary of street food still. Sometimes it's a cool thing to do, like I'm slumming it out, I'm eating it eating at Bademia. But it's not quite like, it's not like the way the Thai people, they hardly cook at home or in Singapore. Like Singapore, the hawker market is a little sanitized. But in Thailand, they eat in really slummy places. Like saying, oh, somtam is really good here, or the noodle soup is very good here. So they go do that. So we should get to that place, and it's also good for tourism and the local economy. This is a very essential part of our urban landscape and the local economy. You need multiple small businesses to flourish, to have an economic and a culinary system that is fair and socially just as well. Not just, few big brands just pumping out the same generic. Yeah, I would say, go drink your beer, but go eat your masala dosa on the street
Oh,
rather than
yeah,
eating those bad frozen nachos. Because Bangalore, I know you mentioned some brands, good food is available in some restaurants, but on the whole, is generic, nonsensical food. You should just, go look for good food. It's there out there on the street.
Yeah. So, Jayanth, what advice would you give to aspiring food entrepreneurs who want to venture into street food?
I think one big advice is just pick one product that will become famous for, and don't worry about the distractors. What I mean by that is, you go to a restaurant, you're paying a lot of money. That's actually not for the food. That's for the nice sofa that they have, the table that they have, and the service that they have. Understand that the food in the street is probably going to cost the same as the food in a restaurant. So if you're honest with your food, just do a single product, you will take off. And now there are ways to do this formally. You can actually get a license. You can put up a street cart. Like in Gurgaon, I know that a lot of the complexes now you can actually put up a food truck. All of that is going to take off. So you're going to see a lot of opportunities. The one thing entrepreneurs should do is they need to be there, own and operate the place. If they just invest and hire a labor to do it, it's not going to happen. So those are the two pieces of advice I would give.
So, for both Priya and Jayanth, you both can take your time in answering this. What's your favorite food book and author or blogger who inspires you with their work? You can take turns to answer this. The same question for the both of you.
Food blogger means like video shows. Mine is still old Anthony Bourdain. I like Peter Kuruvita, who does Sri Lanka, celebrates food, Sri Lankan food, because I have a Sri Lanka connection, and I really like his work. Food book writers, that's quite a lot actually. Michael Pollan would be my top. he talks more about food, not about cooking or anything, but just the place that food has, in our lives and how to eat well, I would say.
Jayanth?
Yeah. I think Priya has covered some of the folks I like, but another person I like is Michael Moss. He has written this book called Salt, Sugar, and Fat. He pretty much says that taste is only about these three ingredients and how you play with them. So one of the things when you're talking about health, etc., you have to understand that anything that's really tasty essentially boils down to these three, which is exactly what the street food vendors are also doing. So just blaming them, saying that you're serving unhealthy food is just inappropriate and unjust.
Thank you so much for taking out the time and being in today's podcast. And for all our listeners and our viewers, this is Priya and Jayanth. Wishing you all the best. And we need to know more about many more street food from all across the country. And I hope the second book comes out soon. Thank you for taking out the time and being on the show today.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mohua.
so much
It was a
for
pleasure. Thank you.